One thing I like to do with my horses to make lunging different and interesting for both of us is put out some poles and some cones and ask them to lunge over and around the objects. So I've got 3 cones set up on the one side of the circle, and then I have the 2 poles set up on the other. When asking them to lunge around objects, it's a good indication of how well they're listening to you, how much they're paying attention. We'll see where Star's attention span is at today and how well she listens, and we'll work through any problems or issues that may come up. We're going to just start off by asking her to walk. Now, if at any point she tries to avoid the poles by coming in towards me, then I can use my body to push out, to ask her to move out and away. Or if she's trying to avoid them going the other direction, I can pull her in, good girl, and ask her to come in towards me and miss those poles. So I've got the 3 cones set up. Right now, I want her to walk on the outside of each of these cones, and I may have to adjust them. I didn't put her on a circle before I asked her to come in. So now we're going to have her walk right over those poles. Good girl. Very nice. Now the poles that I have the black stripe down the center of the pole. So I technically have 5 different ways I can use that pole to ask her to lunge over them. I can ask her to go as close to right over the center as I can get, asking her to step right over that line. I can ask her to go to the right of the line or go to the left of the line. Ask her to miss the pole completely by coming in the circle towards me, or asking her to miss the pole completely by asking her to go to the outside of the poles. So if I want her to go over the left side or miss to the middle, I'm going to shorten up my line a little bit, ask her to come in, then I'm going to use my stick and motion her out. Good girl. Get her to go back over the center of those poles. That one, she was a little bit too far to the right, so I just pulled her in just a little bit so she went more center. By pulling her in, I just shortened up my line a little bit and didn't let her drift so far to the outside. So that's asking her to go and lunge over the ground poles. You can do the same thing at the trot. You can do the same thing at the canter. I would definitely recommend making sure that you and your horse are on the same page at the walk before you attempt the trot, and before you attempt the canter, that you're on the same page at the walk and at the trot. We want to make sure that we let them crawl before we ask them to run. With the cones that I have set up, I'm going to ask her to weave these cones while on the line. So I want her to go to the outside of this cone. Then I'm going to keep myself in, ask her to go to the inside. Now I have to push her back out. And she just made it to the outside of that cone. Good girl. Pick your feet up. Good girl. So we're going to do that again. Outside of this cone, inside of the next cone, but not too far inside. Good. And then push her out. That was better. To go to the outside of the next cone. You want to make sure you work on these things both directions. So right now we're tracking left. So we want to change directions and ask her to do the same thing, tracking right. Going over those poles, whether it's the middle, the left, the right, the outside, and then we'll want to ask her to do the same thing with our cones. Out, out, good girl. The nice thing about this is it gives you specific spots to be set up, so you can direct your horse, and they want to listen and pay attention. Good girl. So we're going to go the outside of that cone. Whoop, I wanted inside of that one, but I didn't set that one up right. So that was on me because she's listening to me. And I didn't set her up correctly to come to the inside of that one. I got too busy talking and wasn't quite paying enough attention. So we'll ask her to come to the outside, then to the inside, and then we'll push her back to the outside of this cone. So now we'll ask her to step up into the trot and see if we can get her to do the same thing at the trot. Trot up. Good girl. So now I want her to go over the center of the poles. Nice, good girl. I'm going to let her go to the outside of the cones. And then next time around, I'm going to line her up. So I'm going to let her go out just a little bit. Nice. So we're going to go out. Keep her in. Oop, and I didn't push quick enough there. That was on me. She stayed to the inside of that cone. So inside. And then push out there. She picked up on it. Much better. Good girl. So I'm just stepping in towards her. Asking her and we killed a cone. Step out. Good girl. And walk. Nice, good girl. Ooh. All right, we're gonna fix that cone. All right, and then we're gonna ask her to go back out on that circle. Good girl. We're going to ask her to continue tracking right. Good. Get her established on that circle before I ask her for second gear or to trot. I did move the cones a little bit out when I had to reset that last cone. Good girl. So we're just going to let her establish that circle at the trot. Nice. Good girl. So next time around, I'm going to ask her to weave those cones. So I want her to go to the outside of the top cone, inside, and then, oop, and I wasn't quick enough. That was me. I didn't move fast enough. So outside, bring her in, step out, almost. Good girl. I know it's kind of bad where I have that cone. And we killed another one, and another one. And you missed that one. Good girl. Good girl. So out. Nope, that was me, but she's really not paying much attention to me either. She's paying some. So out, in, out. There we go. That was it. She was paying a little bit more attention and my timing was better. Out, in, almost. I didn't push quite as hard as I should have. Out, in, nope. I didn't pull her far enough in. That's on me. Over the poles. Good girl. In, out, in. That one we got. Good. Changing it up a little bit. Let's go back to out. Good girl. We're going to go back to out. In, out. So out. In. Almost. Almost. Out. right, so we want to go out, in, out. So I got to change my timing up a little bit. I'm coming at it too late, so it's just as she's getting past, that's it. I need to be stepping up right there. So that was my timing. That was my timing. When I came at it at the right time, she moved right off and moved right back out. Now that I've got my timing down, hopefully we'll see. Third time's the charm. Good, good girl, Mama, and walk. It almost looks seamless. I just took that step in. Ooh, good girl. I had to get my timing right in order to get her to push out and come in to weave those cones while we're lunging. So it's a little bit of a brain tease for you, a little bit of a brain tease for them. If you think groundwork is boring and they just go around in circles, it's so much more than that. There's so much more that you can do with groundwork. You can set up jumps, small jumps if you want on the circle, like 2. You don't want to set up too many, 2 or 3 on the circle, and you can push them out so they miss the jump or pull them back in. You'd need shorter jump standards, of course, so that line can go over the top. Or you can set up a whole circle of cones. You can set up a whole circle of ground poles, have a mix of ground poles, a jump, and maybe a cone or 2. It depends also on how much space you have for your circle. If you have like an 80-foot arena width-wise, you've got more room to drive them out and pull them back in. This is only 60 feet, which is more than plenty for the circle we had set up here. But asking your horse to lunge around obstacles on the ground is a great way to help with their body and them having to watch you. So when everything does come together, all you should have to do is just step up and in or hold yourself back, and they're paying attention, and that anything you do on the ground, anything, absolutely anything to help your timing on the ground will help your timing under saddle and help them pay attention to you under saddle that much more.